It's okay.
All right. So, welcome, Marissa, back to our Zoom show, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us today. When you reached out to me about different parenting challenges that you've overcome, you had a really intriguing one for me that I'm excited to hear about.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to be back and talking with you again. This is definitely a challenge that is not common to most people. This is, but I'll just kind of get into it. So I have what is called neonatal alloimmune thrombocytopenia, and basically what it is it's a condition where when I'm pregnant, my body creates antibodies to attack my baby's platelets because I have a rare platelet type and most people don't have that platelet type. So it's somewhat similar to like the Rh negative factor,
Right.
but different because it's with platelets. It's not super common. It's like 3% maybe of the population that deals with some kind of this. But for the specific type that I have, it's even a little bit more rare. So anyway, so this has affected 3 of my 4 pregnancies. And my first pregnancy that this was affected with, like, I didn't know, pregnancy went fine. I delivered my baby. And then as they were, checking him over and doing all the tests that they do in the hospital, they came and told me that they needed to take him to the NICU because he didn't have any platelets and they were worried about him and things like that. And I was like, what? And so what happened is they always like take some blood of the baby and do like a blood test and check all their levels, right? Well, the first time they did this test for him, they thought that they had waited too long because the results came back that there were hardly any platelets in the blood. And they thought, oh, they've just clotted. So they did it again. And it came back that he only had 7,000 platelets in his whole body.
Wow.
And which, when you're born, you should have at least 150,000. And maybe that's per unit of that they test, actually, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a medical person, so I don't know for sure.
Right.
So anyways, he ended up having to get a platelet transfusion that night. And, and then over a few days, he was able to recover. So basically, this doesn't really affect me. It affects my babies, which can be really disheartening because, as a mom,
Right.
you're like born to protect your children. You want to protect them and help them and do everything that you need to do to help them succeed and grow. And anyway, this affected 3 of my children. The last one, we finally really knew what was going on because I don't know, I think the doctors I had originally with the first one that was affected weren't quite sure exactly if it was genetic or if it was just because I had been sick during pregnancy or what. But after having 2 with it, they knew that it was definitely genetic. And so my third baby, the treatment for it is while you're pregnant, starting anywhere between 12 and 18 weeks on average, you'll go in and get immunoglobulin, drips.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, and it is supposed to block your immune system from attacking the baby's platelets. If you've ever had anything like that, it is not fun.
It doesn't sound like a blast, no.
No, it's not. You basically go to the hospital, and I was there for probably 6 to 7 hours once or twice a week. getting this medicine pumped into me through an IV. And it's like anything, when you get something foreign in your body and your body isn't used to it, doesn't like it, and it tries to compensate. And so I had lots of side effects. I almost ended up in the ER with meningitis symptoms.
Wow.
And I would get these horrible headaches. Like, I would not wish those on anyone. They were so bad. Like, if you've ever had a spinal headache from getting an epidural that went a little off, it's almost as bad as those.
Wow.
It's pretty bad. But anyway, so I did that every week for my last pregnancy until he was born. And then, you know, he was born with a higher platelet level, thank goodness, and was able to be fine. But it was definitely a struggle, and I really struggled with my own body because of the side effects. I was physically couldn't really do much. Like, even taking care of the basics of my own needs was a struggle some days, let alone running a household and taking care of a family.
Right.
So it really put a big strain on my whole family. And honestly, I think even though it's been, 4.5 years, in some respects, we're still recovering a little bit from that. Because it was such a big strain. So that's kind of the background of what this, this NAIT was for me. I know some ladies don't get the side effects as badly as I did, but that's what it was for me. If you guys want to know more about this condition, you can go to natebabies.org. It's a nonprofit organization that you can learn all about it there. You can donate if you want to help those other people that struggle with this. This is a condition that, if it's left untreated, the babies can die in utero, and they can die when you're giving birth as well. It's scary. Going through, especially that last pregnancy, knowing all the risks and knowing that there was a chance that my baby might not make it. Emotionally, it was very taxing, and there's a lot of other women who have gone through the same thing that I went through, and their babies didn't survive. And my heart really goes out to them. Really, to anyone who has lost a child. I've had one miscarriage, and that was pretty emotionally difficult as well. And so I can't imagine what it would be like to actually lose a child that you've been able to hold. But I knew that was a risk going into having my last child, knowing that was a possibility. And so, there was huge emotional struggles with all of that, along with the physical struggles. And because of the physical struggles, I think I really started to kind of fall into a depression. And even after my baby was born, the healing process took longer for me than my other pregnancies. Just the physical part, because I had a C-section that time. But the emotional part is the part where I don't think I realized how deeply I was affected emotionally.
Right.
In fact, I've done a lot of work on that, and since then, I mean, it's been 4.5 years now, and I still find myself struggling with some of the emotions that come up when I talk about it. which tells me I haven't processed them and been able to really, forgive myself or the situation or whatever needed to be forgiven. I'm still working through some of those things. So part of that struggle is especially, afterwards when I started to deal with the emotional parts, I realized that I hated my body. Not because I hated how I looked.
Right.
I hated my body because it had tried to kill 3 of my kids.
Yeah. Right. I can see that.
And so that was hard. I was like, wait, what? I hate my body because it tried to kill my kids. I love my kids. And so being able to recognize that and really just kind of process those emotions, like not just the fact that I needed to get them out either on paper or talking to somebody about it, but really like going to that deep place of realizing that I hated my body and like feeling what that felt like and understanding why I felt that way was part of my healing process. Like I needed to know why I felt that way. And being able to say, but that's okay because I know you were trying to protect me. Because that's really all my body was trying to do,
right,
was protect itself. So being able to forgive myself was huge. But then, there's this part where I'm not the only woman that has been affected by this, and I'm not the only woman I'm not the last person that's going to be affected by this. And probably about a year after I gave birth to my last child, I still, I was working on processing those emotions and everything. And as I was going through the whole, pregnancy and struggle, I really went through it alone. I didn't know about anybody else that had gone through this. I didn't know that there was a Facebook page out there for people who struggled with this, or, a nonprofit organization looking for solutions. I didn't know about any of those things till about a year after I had given birth to my last baby. And, I wrote down my story as I was going through it because I knew at some point maybe it would help somebody with whatever their struggle might be. But after I found NAITbabies.org and I found their Facebook page, I was like, oh my goodness, I wish I would have known about this a year ago. Right. Or 2 years ago. But so I joined their Facebook page. They do want you to share your story with them. They don't just let anybody on. But I learned a lot more about the condition I have, and I also learned that there was a community of support there, which has helped me heal emotionally, which has been great. Right. And then they are now working with a pharmaceutical company in Norway, and no, not Norway, the Netherlands. Sorry.
Okay. I get confused too.
Yeah. To come up with a shot, kind of like a vaccine similar to Rogam, the Rogam shot. Mm-hmm. They'll be calling it NAIT, I believe, but they're working on developing that right now. They're in phase 2. Phase 1, I actually was able to help with.
Oh, cool.
They needed those of us that had experienced NAIT through our pregnancies to donate our platelets and our plasma. And so they had donation sites set up all across the country and asked us to please donate so that they could work on this vaccine. So they have enough right now to start phase 2, which is developing the the serum or whatever it is, and then they'll go into a testing phase and see how that goes. And I'm sure at some point I'll be called to donate more. But when I found out that they were doing that and they needed people to donate, I was so excited.
Right.
Because I was like, now I can help who knows how many other women down the road that are going to experience the same thing I did, except for they won't have to go through what I went through, because there will be this new, better way to treat it. So I was like, yes, sign me up.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, is there a test that somebody can have done to see if they have this? And would you
Yes. What? Sorry, what was the last part of that?
Of the
It's called neonatal alloimmune thrombocytopenia, and like I said, it basically means that your platelets and your husband's platelets clash.
Okay.
And so when you become pregnant, your body creates antibodies. Now there's actually you have 15 different platelet antigens, and there can be several different antigens that are affected, and there are some that are more commonly affected than others, but there can also be the 50% group where their chance of being affected by NAIT is only 50% each pregnancy, or the group I'm in, 100% group. And so every pregnancy will be affected. And, my first pregnancy, he was not affected, but I'm sure that he probably set off the reaction. Mm-hmm. It can happen, though, in first pregnancies.
Right.
So there is a test. They just draw your blood, and then they have it sent off to a special laboratory. When I had mine tested, I lived in Houston, Texas area, and they actually sent it to a lab here in Utah at Utah State, not Utah State, the U, to be tested. Mm-hmm. So luckily I live close to a center that knows a lot about it. So
that's nice too. You mentioned how you needed to forgive your body and to repath how you thought about it instead of. Tell me a little bit more. Let's say you met somebody who is having the same problem. Like, I have trouble staying pregnant, or I have trouble, and I'm afraid I'm going to lose my baby. My body's trying to attack my baby, and I just don't understand. I'm angry. What would you tell them?
First of all, I think I would say it's okay to feel that way, because these are all raw emotions that I feel like you need to go through in that grieving process, and in order to come out the other side into a healing process. So I would first say it's okay to feel this way. And then I would probably say it would be a good idea to journal about your feelings and how you're feeling. And then start to change the perspective a little bit. Think about it. I had to change my perspective from my body is trying to kill my kids to, what, my body really is just trying to protect me. Because, part of our brains, we all have a little part of it that's a lizard brain kind of thing. And its sole job is to keep us alive. And so, it's just doing its job. And if we can change our perspective just a little bit to appreciate that our bodies are just trying to keep us alive, mm-hmm. Then it can start that healing process. And whether whatever the situation you're in works out how you wished or not, you can still start that forgiveness process with your body to come out the other side, still loving you for you, because you understand that your body really is doing its best to protect you and to keep you alive and to do its best for you. So
I love
that's
that.
what I would say.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to share this too with others who are interested in this condition, who would like more information about this condition, and natebabies.com. Is that right?
It's natebabies.org.
.org. Okay.
Yeah, and they also have a Facebook page. If you just look up NAIT Babies, it's NAIT Babies.
Okay.
And you can get more information there. And, you know, if you feel inclined to donate to help the cause, that would be great. Also, if you donate your plasma, thank you. Because, you know, right now that's what they use to treat this is plasma. And like each bag that I received every week from my immunoglobulin infusions, it took over 100 donors.
Wow.
To make each bag.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it's an expensive process to treat this right now, and hopefully someday it won't be, but, you know, they wouldn't be able to do it without people donating their plasma. So if you donate, keep doing it because you're saving lives.
That is amazing, and such a great thing to know that you really are being of service when you do that. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being with us today, and many happy days ahead mothering your amazing babies.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Bye.
You're welcome. Thanks.